All right. Thank you for joining us. This is Impact 2021. My name is Nathaniel, and this is our conversation that we continuously have, where we talk about recent issues, where we talk about issues that are important to the community, basically. And we come at them from different perspectives, religious perspective, from the male perspective, female perspective, depending on who our guest is, and also just basically from our own perspective. To everyone who's joined us and who has joined us in the past, remember, this is a conversation. I would like you to type in your questions and comments. Any questions and comments that you may have, just put them into the chat section and we will address it. This is an active situation. So if you have something that you want to say, please feel free to say it. We have two great guests with us today, where we're going to talk about what has been going on recently in the news and recently in our nation. And so we have Reverend Cox and we have Brother Chris. Thank you for joining us, fellas.
Absolutely.
So let's just jump right into it. So for those of you who may have been living under a rock, the trial of Derek Chauvin has been going on for the past 14 days. And this is the trial of the gentleman who has been accused of murder, the police officer who was accused of murder of George Floyd last year, May 25th, 2020. As you recall, he had his knee on the neck of George Floyd for over 9 minutes and 29 seconds, as George Floyd was saying he couldn't breathe and cried out for his mother before eventually succumbing and passing away. Today, the verdict came back. So 12 jurors, mixed crowd, white, black, male, female, multicultural, all on the jury. 12 jurors came back after 12 to 14 hours of deliberation and came back guilty on all charges. 3 charges: second-degree murder, Derek Chauvin was found guilty. Third-degrey murder, he was found guilty, and second-degree manslaughter charges, all which can carry up to 70 years maximum in prison. And we got about 8 weeks until they get to the sentencing phase. But right now, today, it is Derek Chauvin has been found guilty of the murder of George Floyd. Chris, we're going to go ahead and start off with you. Just basically, how does that make you feel? Just tell us your basic feelings when you heard that it came back with a guilty verdict.
Well, I mean, I feel, I'm happy in the sense that, justice was served. It doesn't normally go this way. Historically, the police and the state or the prosecution normally acquits the police officers, and so I'm happy in that sense. That shows that, we're moving in a direction that is going to treat and hold these law enforcement officers accountable for their behavior. But if you really want to know, for me, I think the trial took too long. I think he proved himself guilty. They recorded it. Everybody that saw it knew he was guilty. And I do understand the constitutional rights of, you got the right to a fair trial by a jury. But I just felt like, that phase kind of made me nervous because, I'm used to the jury going in the other direction. So I think it's a positive step forward, which makes me happy. It makes me happy for his family. At least, they can't have George, but they can have at least a sense of peace that the man that took his life is going to be held accountable for it. So
yeah,
that's where I'm at with it.
Give me a little bit. How did that make you feel? Like, perspective wise, historical wise, how did it make you feel?
Well, I'm kind of mixed on it because of being a victim of social, the political system. I just hope that this isn't just something that's just going to cover up just the hush, the Black community. I also agree that this is a definite step in the right direction. However, I hope that they continue with the progress. I hope this isn't just a situation where they're just hush. It's like hush money, you know. I hope this is a situation where, okay, we gave them one,
Right.
and then go back to the same type of situation. But my main concern, also, panel, is the other 3 officers that were involved. What I was wondering, why didn't they have each one of them in the courtroom, every last one of them in the courtroom at one time? Because I know it was doable, and that would have been justice served, in my opinion, to sentence them all together. They were all together when this infraction took place. I mean, that's how I'm feeling.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. A lot of people have been talking about the next steps is the remaining officers who are out there. It was 4 total officers who were out there, and the question is basically what's going to happen with them. They're ready to charge them as well for being what do you call it, complicit, enablers, not being forceful enough. It was said that 1 or 2 of them, I can't recall exactly, so don't quote me on this, that 1 or 2 of them did tell him, hey, you know, ease up or something like that. But that was it. There was no force behind their little words. So yeah, that is an interesting point. Chris, how do you feel about that? To the degree
Well, I mean,
of officers, yeah. What do you feel about the other 3?
Well, I knew they weren't going to hold them all accountable. It's a frat, you know. It's, you know, and I mean, for real, if you really want to look at it, you know, the police are like a gang. You know, they call in our communities, they call it a gang. You know, but basically it's a state-sponsored group of individuals that have a specific purpose. And it seems like, you know, that purpose is to put, you know, certain people in check and keep them, you know, from, you know, crossing the line. And I feel like, you know, it's a fraternity. Like police, you know, you got people all around the country now claiming that Blue Lives Matter, you know, and they throwing flags up almost like, you know, they're banging for real. Like, and I mean, it's so, and when you have an organization like the police department all over the United States that kind of really holds true to that, you know, stand up and protect the blue and stand up for your brothers, your police brothers. They really believe that. And, you know, and it kind of, you know, when you talk about the officers that were beside them, you know, 2 of them were like rookies, you know, they didn't know any better. Chauvin was the one that was supposed to be showing them how to do the job. And so do you speak out against somebody that's supposed to be training you on your job that can say he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing and you lose your job? Or do you just kind of ride the wave? And I know it comes down to doing the right thing, even though nobody else is doing it. But you gotta, you know, it's a fraternity that, you know, they're not going to turn on their boys like that. And that's the part that needs to be really reformed.
That you just talked about, that what's been going on, where what you've been seeing is that it's these senior officers who are acting a fool. I'm gonna be liberal with my words. Senior officers who are acting a fool. The vets, 20 years in the game, 26 years in the game, and it's these trainees and these rookies who are with them. And so it's kind of like they're showing off with these rookies. And what do you expect a rookie to do? Or what do you expect this young guy to do? If you look at the Virginia case with the lieutenant who is now suing the Windsor Police Department and the 2 officers who pepper sprayed a man in the face who was in his Army uniform. And it was the senior officer who was 20 years in the game who did it. And the 1 year officer, less than 1 year, was the one who, I guess, attempted to de-escalate the situation some. But even the same with Dante Wright, who was shot in the chest by an officer who said that she claimed that she shot him accidentally. She said taser, but he shot him point blank with her service weapon. She's a 26-year veteran, and so Reverend Cox, talk to us. Why is it? What are you seeing here when you're seeing, okay, these old heads who are supposed to be training up the young ones, they're the ones killing everybody?
Well, that says a whole lot right there. They're just showing their true nature. They're showing how they really are. They're showing their true character, I guess is the term that I should be using. But in the same token, those young guys, they should be saying to themselves, you know what? That's not why I joined the police force.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. You shouldn't be doing that. Can I learn something from someone else? I mean, we could use that scenario in any job field.
Mm.
If you're going to teach someone the right way, you're going to teach them the right way. But, what's in the dark comes out in the light. And that goes back to what I was saying. Mm-hmm. She actually showed how she feels about people of color. And unfortunately, I can't believe that we're still having this constant battle, not only with the police, but even with regular citizens, with races. I mean, we were created for what? For togetherness. We were created to love one another. We were created to make sure that others' needs are met. Unfortunately, those police officers blemished the progress of a lot of people, a lot of officers that were trying to do the right thing. And now they have another setback. That is effective on this situation.
Yeah. We got a comment. That's a great point. We have a comment that came in that basically says Chauvin had actually made a plea bargain, but the Justice Department would not take the deal. Chris, what do you think about that? Now that is an interesting dynamic that, I guess that plea bargain was pretty whack. It's surprising that the Justice Department would not. So I guess actually going back to what Reverend Cox said, this could be a setup of an example, just trying to give us a little bone to quiet.
Like
the
rap said, he said hush money, right? Like it's okay. Let's go ahead and throw this out there. Let's keep the blacks happy. Let them go to trial. Let's go ahead and lynch this man publicly and let everybody know that we're behind the Black Lives Matter. We're down for police reform and justice until the next one happens.
Yeah.
And then they excuse, they're going to turn around and say, look what we did with George Floyd. Look what we did with George Floyd. So, but that goes to kind of prove that, this, I don't want to call it a publicity stunt, because at the end of the day, I think they did make the right decision. But, you got to look at the optics of it, and I think that's what they're doing. They're saying, look, this makes more sense. In the long run, we can get more support. We can kind of keep the population kind of, under control if we give them what they want. And that's what they did. They delivered.
Let me ask you guys this.
We'll see.
So all right, this takes place, right? Now we have to prepare for a backlash that none of us are totally aware of right now. There's going to be a backlash. Unfortunately, there's definitely going to be a backlash, because some people are going to feel that he was just being the police, that he should have been acquitted of the charges. They don't see the right and the wrong. They see the Blue Lives Matter aspect. And growing up, knowing police officers, powerful judges, lawyers, they know that this could have been taken care of a long time ago. This trial was probably it was actually strung out a little bit too long. We knew, and I understand what you were saying about due process and all that, but how long does it take for due process to take place? Which is also going to lead to the backlash that I'm referring to, because it's coming. It's coming. So just saying, it's coming.
That's I think that's an excellent point too. What and to piggyback on that, so Chris, in many can't even say it. Minneapolis. Anyway, where the trial took place, they have a
Minneapolis.
from my research. Thank you. From my research, it basically said that they have the ability to appeal, and it's not in some states you actually have to have something to appeal on or a basis to appeal on, but they have auto appeal where you can just go ahead and appeal. And so with the preparation for the backlash and the preparation for the appeal, for everyone who is happy today, what else do we need to prepare for? What else do we need to do? Are we good? And just, the appeal's gonna be straight, or do we really need to prepare for the backlash and prepare for an appeal? And what should we be doing in the meantime?
Keeping our families safe, making sure that we keep the younger generation knowledgeable about what could actually take place when they go outside, when they encounter the police, make sure they're in compliance, but better yet, make sure they're in numbers. There's safety in numbers. It's an old school thing, try not to deviate too far away from home, those kind of things, because a lot of times, things seem to happen when we're 10, 20, 30 miles away from home, or sometimes we're on vacation. Vacation turns sour. It heads in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's
I agree with that, but I think it's very important also for our kids to know their rights, and I know it doesn't necessarily matter when you got a police officer that's down to just go ahead and do whatever he feels, but knowing your rights. And I guess when you come back to the situation in Windsor, he knew what his rights were. Mm-hmm. And it appears that knowing your rights doesn't even help, and so he knew what his rights were, and he said, I don't have to get out of the car. And he didn't. They didn't have a warrant. He didn't have any reasonable cause to stop him or to search him. And so, but I do think, on top of being in numbers, I think, knowing what your rights are. And it's something that I think we need to teach our kids, especially our young boys, is that, when you feel threatened, you got to figure out how to de-escalate, because if the police are not going to be the ones that are de-escalating, we have to be the ones that de-escalate.
That's right.
And so understanding your rights is one part of it, but we have to educate our community on how to de-escalate the situation. And and our young boys, they got pride. And they got egos, and they don't want to feel like, you ain't gonna treat me like, like I'm your little boy, and I understand that, but at the end of the day, man, it's not a fight you can win. And so I think, staying, in numbers, but also understanding our rights and understand how to de-escalate. That's the way forward. And one more thing. We need to start policing ourselves.
That's right.
And it could be, literally where we just have, just a super organized and well-equipped neighborhood watch, or if we actually work within the police department to actually get police officers that live in our neighborhoods, that understand our children, that understand the culture and understand, you know, all of the players and all of the different dynamics of the Black community, that would also start to stem some of this police misconduct. Because I mean, if you know, if Mr. Walter from around the corner is the police officer and he knows your mom, he knows your grandma, he knows your uncles, he grew up in the neighborhood that you grew up in, he's going to treat you differently than Mr. Chauvin would.
That's right.
Because he understands who you are and he understands his connection to you and your community.
Excellent perspective.
Yeah, we got another comment here that says 10% of police are corrupt, 10% are willing to stand up, yet 80% don't say anything. That kind of goes back to the fact of talking about the other three cops, you know, where they came into play. But I want to address this other comment that came in is, what do you think about the judge's remarks about Maxine Waters? And just for everyone who may not have heard those, Maxine Waters said that, you know, if the verdict came back, this is before the verdict came out, that if it comes out differently, that we need to remain confrontational with when we go out, we continue to protest and stay and be more confrontational. And so the judge took that as saying that was basically inappropriate comments, and there was grounds for it may be grounds for an appeal later on down the line. So what do y'all think about that? About her comment and about what the judge said?
Well, I think that people construe things the way that they want to. She said what she felt, and whatever means necessary. If the verdict would have came back differently, I don't think that what was going to happen wasn't going to happen. It was going to take place anyway. And that goes back to what I was stating about the backlash. We have a verdict. Now we have to prepare ourselves for not only we're dealing with the police officers, you know, the unions or whatever, or however they feel. Now we're dealing with the knuckleheads that feel that they're supreme, and you know the ones that I'm talking about. So on and so forth. That's where I'm getting at with that backlash, and that's going to be more vital than the comment that they made. Because that, to me, that you can take that comment one way or the other. Just like when they stormed the White House.
Right. Yeah.
Well, let me say, I applaud. I'm going to applaud Maxine Waters for saying that, because I think she's right. Like, it is fundamentally, it's important. If the people are not happy with the decision, it is important for them to express their disapproval.
Right.
And I think what the judge was, I think he may have felt threatened that, let's not mention that she was a Black woman. Let's say if she wasn't, I think he felt more threatened about, this is my court. I think it was more of this is my court. Why are you speaking on in my courtroom on what I'm doing over here? I think it was more of that. But I think, absolutely. And you know what? She didn't have to say it, but I'm glad she did, because it was going to happen anyway.
Right.
And you know what? I mean, I remember watching the Rodney King. I know it was decades ago, but I remember watching how that whole city just was in flames after that, verdict, let those police officers off. I remember that. And so, and the same thing happened, not too long ago with Freddie Gray. And, when all of these things, when you got so many people that are so riled up and so connected to this decision, you know what? You need to be, it was smart. I mean, it was the smartest move they could have made. They could not allow this man to be free. It would have destroyed, that city would have been on fire right now. So
The whole nation.
yeah. And you're right. It would have spread all across the United States. It wouldn't have been just Minneapolis. It would have been everywhere because there were so many people that were so connected to it. And, because, the entire United States population watched this man die, and so I think, everybody wanted justice. I don't think this was a race issue. I think it was, you definitely have some hardcore people that are going to say that the police were justified, but this wasn't an issue of race. This was an issue of humanity. And so when you have so many people that are connected to it, everybody needed to speak out, and they needed to put this, they needed to put the system on record. Like, look, this is what's going to happen if you don't follow through on what you're supposed to do. And so I applaud her for saying that. And the judge really, he was dealing with his ego,
That's highly probable.
Yeah. One, she's great. And they call her Auntie Maxine. But there's two ways you can really look at her comment, I think. And that's one, you can say confrontational as far as, oh, they're rioting, or oh, they're being aggressive and they're doing this and doing that. But the other one is be more confrontational, because a lot of Black people, we let things slide. You hear some racist stuff from some people at work and you just let it slide. Or you hear some racist stuff in your church, especially for those of us who go to churches who are multicultural, and you let it slide. Or you hear some stuff from your friend who may be of a different race and you let it slide. And I think what she's saying, or she may be saying, is that we got to be more confrontational. You can't just be letting this stuff slide. You need to speak up. You need to speak out, and even with our dollars, when they're sitting there talking about places like Georgia, or they talk about here in Virginia, by no means should you be getting a hotel room, having a party or a cookout, or going to anything in was it Windsor? You didn't even talk today. Well, Windsor, Virginia, where the police officer assaulted the young man. And so we got to get more confrontational with the words that we say. Stop letting stuff slide and get confrontational with what we do with our money, with our resources, with our time. Like, stop being so, how people say, oh, they're trying to divide us. Hey, man, your words are not divisive. Your words are you saying what you want, what we gonna put up with. And if I say we're not putting up with this no more, then I got to get a little bit more confrontational with my words. Stop trying to protect people's feelings because you don't want them to feel bad. So I think that's what she was saying, and that's my bias there. I don't think she was saying go out here and let's throw a trash can through a window. I think she's saying, hey man,
She said be more confrontational. She did not say let's burn nothing down, let's tear this stuff up, she didn't say let's become more violent. She said let's be more confrontational. Right? You're right. I agree with you. You hold people accountable for what they do. If somebody steps on your toe over and over again, at some point you're gonna have to say, yo, stop stepping on my toe.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So I think what she said, I don't believe it was promoting violence at all. I believe what she was trying to do was actually hold everybody accountable. And and she's a representative of the system, so she wasn't coming trying to tear the city down. She's trying to help the city protect itself from a bad mistake.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, look, our time is run. I'm gonna end with this. And real quick, I'm gonna hit you first, Chris, and then I'm gonna come to you, Reverend Cox. Man, I was driving down the street and I saw two little boys, Black boys. They probably was about 8, maybe 10. One was walking, the other one was riding a bike. And that's normal. When we were young, that's normal. You see that all the time. No parents around, just two little boys riding their bike.
Right.
So much fear went through my body, and not like the people who are nowadays, we can't have kids out there, because I love to have kids just running around like we used to. But so much fear went through my body because I thought, yo, if the cops come out here, those two little boys have nobody. And like, that's immediately my first thought was, I'm scared for these two little black boys because the cops might come out. And I say that to say, Chris, what do you say to your son now that this trial is going on? And I know he's a smart young man, so he's paying attention to all this. What are you saying to your son or the little kids, because you experience little kids all the time in your profession? What do you say to them in relationship to this whole situation?
Well, I say check your tone. And I also say, look, remember that you can't fight the police. And we've had this conversation time and time again. I told them to be compliant, but to understand what they can and cannot do. We've talked about, they cannot search you without a warrant. We've talked about that. We've talked about, what you can do, what you cannot do, what he can do and what he cannot do. And so the first thing I tell them, I'm like, make sure that somebody is around. Do not make sure you get to a place where you're by yourself. And I have a daughter that drives too. We said, if you get pulled over, make sure it's well lit and there are plenty of cars that can see what's going on. And so it's a conversation that we have to have in our communities. So, because like you said, it's a fear factor that we have, and that we always have to at least program our kids to recognize, and, hopefully, we can get to the place where the police are more considerate and more helpful with their positions and their power. But, until in the meantime, we just have to prepare them to understand what the situation could be and how to deal with it when it comes.
Yeah. Remember, Cox, same thing to you. And your kids are in that age range of the ones that the cops target. They getting them when they, once we hit 18, from 18 to, I guess, from 18 to 40, that's that range where they coming for us. What do you say to young people? What would be your message to them?
I tell them to drop all the testosterone, because when you have someone that has a gun, a taser, that could just ruin your life with mere words, you don't want to give them a hard time. Use a yes sir, no sir, or ma'am, or whatever it may be. Try to, well, we were saying earlier, try to de-escalate the situation right from the start. So in other words, don't pop off like what some kids just get bugged, and just don't be bugged. Listen to what the police officer is saying, because you learn a lot by listening to what people are saying, and especially if they're coming at you kind of hard, then you already know that you probably need to be a little bit submissive to the situation. Also, like I stated earlier, make sure that you're in numbers, because my kids, thank God that they normally make sure that they have their friends around, and keep cell phone handy. I mean, that seems to be our best weapon right now, to make sure that we have some kind of cell phone, some kind of media device taking place. That way, the officer can be held accountable if something goes wrong. That's it.
Yeah. Well, fellas, I appreciate both of y'all joining us. We went a little bit longer today. I mean, it was a good topic. I think we had to get right into it. When the trial came, when the results came, and I saw I was guilty, as the late great rapper Black Rob would say, whoa. That's all I can say, man. I was just shocked. I didn't expect it to happen. So fellas, I appreciate y'all coming on. Please join us again. Thank you for this opportunity to actually just have this conversation and keep it going. To everyone, thank you for joining us. This is Impact 2021. Please join us again next week. Have a good night.